In this presentation, we will generate, print to a PDF file, and export to Excel month-end reports, and then we'll take a look at those reports and see how we can format those reports to provide them either for our own purposes or to a supervisor or to a client in different types of format that can be most useful and easiest and best for presentation purposes within QuickBooks Online. For more accounting information and accounting courses, visit our website at accountinginstruction.info. Here we are in our guitar lessons and equipment file. We're going to go down to the reports on the left side. We're going to start off with our favorite two reports, that being the balance sheet and the profit and loss report. Here is the balance sheet report. We're going to go up and change the dates. So we're going to look at the first one for the month of January, then we'll do the month of February. And remember, these are month-end reports, so as we print them, it'll be as of the end of the month. So I'm going to start off with the range anyways, because I'm used to doing that, of 01/01/19 to 01/31/19. So that's January 1st through the 31st, 2019, and run that report. Next thing we're going to do is jump over to our folder on our desktop and say, where do we want to put this report? We're going to save this report, so I'm going to open up our folder for our clients. We're going to put it in the documents. We got 2019 documents. Notice we broke it out by month now, and we're going to have, now we have 2 months worth of data. So I'm going to break it out between these 2 months. I'm going to start with the January reports. So we'll go into the January reports. I'm going to make a new file in here. I'm going to right click and say new. We're going to make a new folder, and I'm just going to say January reports. We'll just call it January reports and keep it in there. And that's what we're going to have. Now we're going to print this information. We're going to save it as a PDF file, and we might put it in some other formats that we can then put into this folder. Note that we could email the report, but that's not usually the best option because we want to group this stuff together in a way that it's going to be easiest to work with. And if we just email like 5 reports or 10 reports, then that becomes tedious. It's going to have a lot of different emails on it. So we could save it as a PDF file is another option. We're going to do that, and we're going to do that by saving it with a cute PDF printer. And I'm going to use the printer, in other words, to save it as a PDF file. Really useful thing to have. It works well here, and it works well with many different areas. So I recommend having a PDF printer, which is basically just a printer that's going to save it as a PDF when you do the printer icon. And you can find that if you search for the cute PDF printer. It should be a free PDF printer that you can then use. You can just download it, and then when you print things, it'll have a PDF printer icon, and you can then choose the PDF printer to print things with. That's what we're going to use here. I'm going to print it first as a PDF, and then we'll export it to an Excel file. We'll take a look at the pros and cons of the two. Looks like it's looking good here, so we're going to go ahead and say print, and then we're going to check it on this side. It looks good. I'm going to make sure that our changing the printer now to that PDF printer. So it's a PDF printer. This is how once you have it downloaded, you can just select the PDF printer, and then when we print, it won't send it to a printer. It will just go to the PDF printer. Now, sometimes you have to click on this icon to have the data fields show up, and then you'll have your familiar kind of browsing data field that you can then go into, browse for our folder being the guitar lessons and equipment. We're going to put it into the documents file, 2019, January reports. Then we're going to say that the name is going to be, we're going to call it the balance sheet, and we'll call it January. And note that our name here, we want to make the name not for our purposes. I'm not going to put the date in the beginning and have some weird format of the date because this is what I'm giving specifically to the client. So I'm going to try to put this in a format that I can provide to the client most easily. So we'll save that, say okay, that's going to be saved. I'm going to close that. Now I'm also going to export it to Excel, and I'll show you why. We could give this to someone in Excel, which they might appreciate because we could put multiple forms on one tab, or we can use Excel then and the cute PDF printer to put all these reports on one PDF file. So we'll show you how to do that by going to the export. We're going to export to Excel, and then notice in this format, in this browser, it's just going to show us the Excel file down here. And I'm just going to take that Excel file and I'm going to drag it into my folder. So you could open it up. I'm just going to go ahead and drag it into the current folder I want it in. I'm going to open that up, and then it's already saved where I want it to be. And just to see, this is where I dragged it to. So we put it right into our January folder. If we open it up, I'm going to enable the editing on it. And there's going to be our balance sheet report. So we've got a balance sheet report formatted for us. We'll leave it there for now. We're going to go back into it later. So I'm going to close that back out. Also note you may want to rename the name here of the Excel folder, but this is probably not the one I'm going to give to the client, so I'll keep the, well, let's rename it. I'll right click on it and we'll rename this one. So right click and rename it. And we're going to call it same name, Balance Sheet January 2019. Okay, so then we're going to say that is going to be that one. I'm going to make another tab now, and we'll take a look at the profit and loss for January. So let's right click up top. We're going to say duplicate. I'm going to pull the tab from the left to the right. So now we have the balance sheet on the left, new report on the right. We're going to go down to the reports on the left side and pick up that profit and loss report, the second type of report that we want. We're going to run this. Now the date range is important, of course, because this is a performance report. So it's going to be from 01/01/19 to 01/31/19, January 1st through the 31st. Run that report. And so here is our information for January. We're going to do the same process here. I'm going to save this report so we can then go to the print, and we're going to print it as a PDF file. I'm going to say print, and we will put this into the same area. So we're going to say print as a cute PDF printer, and that'll put it into our same folder. And we're just going to call this profit and loss January. I'm just going to say January 2019, and we'll save that item. Then we'll do the same with the Excel. So I'm going to export to Excel, selecting the export item, export to Excel. It's going to generate it down here. I'm just going to drag it into our folder. I'm just going to drag it from here into the folder. If you have some other kind of browser and you have to open it back up and then save it to the folder, then you could do that as well. I'm going to rename it, and we're just going to call it Profit and Loss January 2019, let's say. So there's that item. So we have the profit and loss. Now the other report we might want is to take a look at a deposit report or a bank reconciliation report for January as well. That could be a nice report to include. So I'm going to duplicate this tab again. I'm going to right click up top and duplicate. Pull the one from the left to the right. And so now we have the balance sheet and the profit and loss, a new report. We're going to go to the reports down on the left. I'm looking for that reconciling report. That's the one we want. So I'm going to type in reconcile report. So accounts receivable aging, we got the reconciliation reports. That's the one we want, reconciliation reports. Looking for those balance sheet or those bank statement. So here's the first bank reconciliation report. And so let's select that item. And again, this doesn't give us a lot of information in terms of reconciling items, because as of January 31st, it's going to be the end balance will be the same. But it does give us kind of the detail of the deposits that we have entered into the system, as well as the checks. It kind of verifies that we've entered everything in the system. So, and it's kind of impressive type report. It looks intimidating, at least. So it might be a good thing to process and batch along with it, because it is showing the information that we actually did. We took the bank statement, we entered that directly into the system, and this shows that directly. So we can print this one out. Now note we don't have the exporting option here to export it to Excel, but we still have the printing option. So even if you don't have an option to save it as a PDF, that cute PDF printer allows us the ability to print this out and save it as a PDF anyways, because we have the printing option. And that's the key. That's really worth having that cute PDF printer for that. So I'm going to go ahead and print this to the cute PDF printer. And we will then say there's that one. And I'm going to call this one the bank. We'll call it a bank reconciliation for January 2019 and save that item. And then I'm going to close this back out. And if we go to our reports, then here's what we've got so far. We've got our 2 Excel reports, and then we've got these 3 PDF reports. So we could provide this to our clients basically as just a group information, or we'll talk about different ways that we can group this together. First though, let's do the same thing for February. So now I'm going to go back to the prior point where we had January. Now we're going to go to February, and we'll do the same information, and I'm just going to call it right click. I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm going to just call it February reports. So this is what we're going to have for February. We will provide to the client. We're putting together the reports that we're going to provide to the client. And so we're going to pull this back over, and I'm just going to do the same thing for February. So we're going to go into the balance sheet, and we'll just change the dates up top. We'll go from 02, 01, 19 to 02, 28, 19, and run that report. And then I'm just going to do the same process. I'm going to do this a little bit quicker. We're going to do the same type of thing for February. So we're going to print it as a PDF file. So I'll print it as a PDF file, print it, and I'm going to print it to that cute PDF printer. So we'll print, and then that will give us the browse window. And I'm going to take it not to the January folder, but now bringing it up to the February folder. And there's our February reports. And we'll name this one. We'll call it Balance Sheet February 2019 and save. So now that item is in our folder. And so then we'll close this back out. We'll export it as well. I'm going to go to Export to Excel. So there it is in our taskbar. This is in Chrome. I'm going to drag it over into our folder. And again, if you have to open it up at some other browser, then that's fine. And then just save it then to the folder. And then we'll right click and rename it. Same name. We're just going to call it Balance Sheet Feb 2019. So there we have that item. Then we'll go to the income statement or profit and loss. So I'm just going to go to the second tab now where we already have it set up. We'll change the dates up top. So it's going to go from 02, 01, 19 to 02, 28, 19. So February 1st through February 28th, and run that report. Same process we'll use here. We're going to print it. So we'll print, and we will print it. And then I'm going to print it to that cute PDF printer, or use the cute PDF printer to print it. And then we'll select the location, and we'll call this a profit and loss for February 2019. And that then will show up in our folder. So we have it in our folder here, profit and loss for February. Closing that back out, we're now going to export. So I'm going to say export to Excel. Opening it up in the browser down here. I'm going to take that window, I'm just going to drag it into our folder. Dragging it into our folder. And then right clicking it, renaming it. And I'm going to call this profit and loss for February 2019. And then we'll want to do the same reconciliation report, which is a little bit more tricky because the reconciliation is formatted a bit differently. So we'll go to the reports on the left side. And once again, I'm going to type in reconciliation report. We're going to take the one this time for February. So we'll take the February report. And again, all we have is the printing option. So we have that cute PDF printer, so we can use that, which is great. So we'll go ahead and print that. And then we'll put that into our February folder. It looks like it's going where we want it. We're going to call it Bank Reconciliation. Hope I spelled that right. You want to spell it right, but this is a practice problem, so we'll keep it there. And we'll say February 2019 and save that. And so now we have our basic kind of information into our folder. Now, if we look at our folder, we have a few different options for saving this type of information, because now it's a lot of stuff to give somebody. If we're going to give this to a client or a supervisor, we're either going to give them the Excel sheets, or we're going to give them these 3 files and 3 other files for January. We also may want some year-end reports, which might include the profit and loss report for January and February, and maybe even some comparative reports. And that's going to get to be a lot of different reports. So just with these basically 2 months, we want to think about how can we format this better instead of having an attachment of 6 different reports to it. And we'll actually add to that now. Let's add the 2 other reports, or at least 1 other. Let's go to the profit and loss report, and let's add January and February. Right, so that's going to go 01/01/19 to February. This is what we've done year-to-date report, in other words. So here's the net income year-to-date. And we can then do the same item there. We can print this. I'm going to put it in the February folder. And we'll print that item. And print that item. And we'll save that. This is going to be, let's just call it year-to-date profit and loss. So that's the year-to-date profit and loss report. We could say 2019 and save that. Now we're going to export it as well. So I'm going to select the Export to Excel, Export. And once again, I'm just going to drag that over. So I'm going to drag that over to our folder. So now there it is, and I'm just going to copy the name here. I'm going to say rename, Control C, I'm just copying. And I'm going to right click here and rename, Control V. I'm using on just to paste it, I'm just pasting. So now we have the same item there. And then let's do one other report, and that's going to be a comparison. So to do that, I'm going to change the total column to the months and then run that report. Now I've got January and February. This is best to be done with the profit and loss because that shows activity. We could do it with the balance sheet as well, but it doesn't show as, it's not an activity report, so it's probably not as important. But if you want to print it and have another report, you can have that as well. So let's do the same thing here. We're going to print it as a PDF report, print that report, and print up top. And then we'll save this item. And we're going to call this let's call it a comparative profit and loss report. And we're going to save that. And also note, you might want to change the name up top and not call it just a profit and loss, but comparative up top. And that could make it look a little nicer as well. And then we'll export it. And same thing here, there it is there. I'm going to take that, I'm going to pull that over to our folder, and we'll rename it on the folder now. So I'm just going to copy the name up top. It was a comparative, right click, rename, copying it, Control C, right click, rename, and pasting it. So now we have a lot of stuff that we're going to give to a client. So how can we basically make this better? That's what we'll talk about next time. We'll talk about organizing these files so that we can group them together and then send them. For more accounting information and accounting courses, visit our website at accountinginstruction.info.